So the first question I have for you, are you able to induce this mind of taking refuge? Is that something you can on your own, induce that mind? No. Yeah, it takes some work, it takes some work. Yeah. So I think it's good, those normally when one takes refuge, right, one is supposed to do that a few times every day, to induce that mind of refuge, to keep that connection, with the Buddhas. And then the mind of bodhicitta. So are you able to induce that mind of bodhicitta? So it's good. So again, it's something one has to cultivate every day and try to live in that state of mind as much as possible. you know. I think it's really important. I think they are the two basic meditation and the mind of taking refuge, right? So in refuge, you can also include guru yoga, you know. So it's a little bit the same state of mind, right? To rely on um, the Buddhas and the gurus. So if you have these two states of mind, refuge and bodhicitta, you're okay, you don't need to worry about anything. That will take care of you in this life and all the lives to come, right? So actually, the realization of bodhicitta, the realization of calm abiding, actually you lose it when you die, right? So it's linked to this life, right? So if you're very good at it, then you're born in a formless realm, a form of formless realm. But actually, calm abiding by itself, you know, it said we had that many times in previous lives, right? But if we had bodhicitta, that we wouldn't lose, right? From lifetime to lifetime, you you have bodhicitta, right? So in terms of realization, bodhicitta is amazing, you know. From lifetime to lifetime, um, you want to benefit other, lifetime to lifetime, you're on the path to enlightenment. And I think if one has a refuge in one's heart, no? So from lifetime to lifetime, we meet again spiritual teacher, we need to meet again the Dharma, we meet again the Buddha. So again, just taking refuge, if you have sincere refuge, that will take care of everything. So we don't need to worry at all about future life. You see, if we cultivate these two experience, being close to the Buddhas and having a warm heart. So I think we all have that, right? It's just it can be enhanced, it can be cultivated, it can grow, right? So it's never, we haven't taken enough refuge until we Buddha, right? So only when you reached Buddha, the state of Buddha, have you perfected the practice of taking refuge, right? So same thing with love, compassion, and bodhicitta. Uh, a Buddha has more love, compassion than a 10th level bodhisattva. And a 10th level bodhisattva has more love and compassion than a ninth level bodhisattva. So as you grow on the path, your heart and you expands, and the quality continue to grow. So one hasn't enough, you see, until this quality are only perfected at the stage of full enlightenment. So I think it's good, you see, of course, most of us recite the prayer of taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. We say the words, right? But you see, saying the word is something different than having the experience in your heart. right? So sometimes we think because we say the word that we actually have the experience, but it's not true, right? Um, so we still, even though we adhere to the idea of refuge, we adhere to the idea of, adhere, is that English? No, that's French. Huh? Adhere? Yeah. Okay, adhere. Yeah. To the idea of bodhicitta, we agree that's a good state of mind and we aspire, we try. But to get that actually that experience is something else, right? It's like we saw in this meditation. So to every day try to experience this state of mind is wonderful. So if one has time, instead of just reciting the prayer, actually to stop and make the meditation of inducing the mind of refuge and then inducing the mind of bodhicitta, that would be extraordinary, so much benefit. So today I would like to go more into the ignorance, which is the first link, which is actually the main problem we have. So first I will read a few extract from Dharmakirti and Asanga. So Dharmakirti says, the karma of those who have transcended attachment lack the power to project another rebirth because the cooperative conditions have been extinguished. So what it says is that even if we have the karma, to be reborn here and there, if one doesn't have any more attachment, so that karma cannot ripen, right? And when we speak about attachment, you see, I think one thing that happened at the time of death is the attachment is there, that the attachment is the strongest, right? Attachment, well, let's say if you die of an accident, I don't think you have time to get through these stages because the process goes quite fast, right? But if you die a normal death, no. So I think attachment to, I think the strongest attachment is attachment to the body and then attachment to the self, right? So then attachment, of course, to one's relative, things like that. So all what one has to let go. So I think that attachments um, makes us that the karma then ripen, into this and that. If one wouldn't have attachment, then one could get free of those karma. But I think it is very difficult, you know, unless one has realized emptiness, to let go of attachment is actually very difficult, I would say. We can reduce it, We can play stoic, being stoic, you know. We can do like that, right? Being a bit stoic, but as long as you know as the root cause ignorance is there, attachment is bound to arise, right? So it says, do I asked the Geshe, you see, if you remove uh, the grosser level of self, the dominant I or the self-sufficient, substantially existent I or the ego, whatever one wants to call. So if you remove that, so that's the gross level of selflessness, right? So, but the Prasangika said that's not enough to get out of cyclic existence. So I asked Geshe, so where are those guys that have that realization? They've realized the absence of the Self. So, you know, for them, they have reached liberation, and for us, we say they're still in samsara. So I asked the geshe, so what do the Prasangika think of those guys? So he said, they are neither in samsara nor in nirvana. It's kind of, you know, they, they throw the ball out, of the feelings. So they are not in samsara because they don't have any more manifest afflictions. And they are not in nirvana because they haven't realized the absence of inherent existence. Yeah. So they say these beings, even though they don't have any more manifest affliction, after a very, very long time, a situation could arise where the mental affliction arise again, you know, because they haven't removed the subtle level of self. But I would be happy without manifest afflictions. Mhm. I think it's quite good. I would take that. Temporarily, it would be nice. So when attachment is there, the aggregates arise again. So you see, we've seen in the 12 links, right? After feeling, after contact, there's feeling, and then feeling, craving, right? So craving is that attachment, right? So whenever we have feelings, we have attachment to what is pleasant, and we have the attachment to get away from unpleasant, right? So that's attachment, and it's kind of innate, right? So whenever it's something pleasant, whatever it is, your mind likes it and gets attached to it. And when something is unpleasant, like sickness, like pain, you have this natural aversion, right? You want to get, yes, separated from that experience. So it's almost spontaneous, you cannot avoid it as long as you see things as inherently existent. So in theory, one can say, yes, I'm not going to have attachment, but actually it's difficult. No. Arhats have many karmic seeds of rebirth in cyclic existence, but the main cause of their ripening has been eliminated, the afflictions. So the main cause of samsara is the afflictions. So we spend quite a lot of energy, spiritually to purify the karma, we do Vajrasattva and all this practice. So actually all this is still good because, it's better to be in an upper realm than in a lower realm, right? So as long as one hasn't removed the mental affliction at its root, it's still better in samsara to have a good rebirth than an unpleasant one, right? So it doesn't mean that one doesn't need to purify one's karma. But if one wants to go out of cyclic existence, then the affliction is our main target, right? So Asanga in the Companion of Knowledge, an obscuring affliction is defined as a phenomena which, when it arises, arise with the characteristic of being unsettling, and due to its arising, the mental continuum becomes unsettled. So, what would you use as a synonym of unsettled? Disturbed, yeah, John. Dis- Unhappy, agitated, um, huh? Excited, yeah, yeah. Why not? Uh, what else? What does a mental affliction do to our mind when it arises? Upsets the calm. Yeah, it energizes, agitates, yeah. Tight, unstable. Uh, mm, brings the consequence. Yeah, actually, afflictions, if you're sensitive, you see that it's an unhappy mind, it's an unhappy, unsatisfied experience. So the affliction themselves are unsettling, and then they unsettle the mind, right? So they are unruly, they are disturbed. The mental affliction disturbs them, is by nature are disturbing, and then they disturb the mind. So this actually, we need really to, it seems easy like that when one does to definition, but it's not so clear, you know, in everyday life. You know? So we think that attachment is happiness, right? So or desire, so for example, um, you have a croissant there, right? So then the desire for the croissant seems to be something pleasurable, right? Or the desire to meet your friend, or the desire to go for a walk on the beach, right? So we think these are pleasurable, right? Would you agree or would you not agree? Is that pleasurable to desire to go somewhere? But what if you wouldn't have the desire? What if, so yeah, so we have all these trigger, all these things that makes us happy, all this desire we have for this and that. And we think that when actually the desire itself is unpleasant, right? The experience of desire itself is unpleasant. But we think that when we have the object, you see, when you have desire, you're unsatisfied right now. And you think when you have your object of desire, then you will have happiness. So the desire itself is not happiness, right? But it leads us to the object that will make us happy. So actually, the mind of desire is an unsatisfied mind. Because at that moment when you have the desire, you're not happy. You will be happy when you have the object of your desire. So same thing with the mind of attachment. You see, you attach to somebody or to a place or to a situation, and the mind of attachment is not free, right? That mind of attachment said attachment is sticky, like, it can sticks, it's not free, it can, yeah, it's bound to that object, to that person or that situation. So it needs actually a lot of observation, fine tuning in your mind to actually recognize that desire and attachment are unhappy mind. You know, normally, if you don't really check precisely, you think they are quite happy mind because they lead you to your object of happiness, right? But if you check your mind, you know, that state of mind of having desire, of having attachment, is actually unhappy, is unpeaceful. You, you know, you don't have the thought of no need, I'm perfectly fine, happy like that. No, there's something that can make you happier. So I, I think, a good practice in order not to have a strong attachment is to, I found it quite helpful to buy things that are not the best, you know. It's better to have the second best or the third best. You see, then you have less attachment, you know. If you buy the best car, right, and you put a lot of money in it, right, then somebody scratched it, it's a huge problem, right? But if your car, is a less valuable car, it's cost less to fix, and so you suffer less, right? Or you buy a jacket, you like so much and it's expensive and then you forget it somewhere, you lose it, wow, But if it's just a normal jacket, I'll buy another one, no problem. So you can see how the mind reacts, right? So the more you attach to the things around you, the more that attachment will when the things go out of your life, then you suffer, right? If you have less attachment, oh, okay, it's gone. I buy another one. Yeah. Another bad one. Yeah. But I see that even with my mala, if I have a simple mala, a cheap mala, and I lose it, I forget it somewhere, no problem. I just take another one. But if it's an expensive and nice one, I like very much, if I lose it or forget it somewhere, oh, I want to get it back. So with everything, it's a little bit like that, right? So as long as one has, the ignorance, of believing in self-existence. So that's our situation, right? So Dharmakirti says, holding there is a self, you conceive of others, discriminating self and others, attachment and hostility arise. In connection with these, all faults arise. You see, because we have this feeling of self, of me. So if you didn't have this strong sense of me, there wouldn't be a strong sense of other. So uh, based on sense of me, then let's put it in a Prasangika language. So because there's a belief in an inherent me, then there's a belief in an inherent others, right? And based on this discrimination on this inherent self and inherent other, then attachment and hostility arise, right? So whatever benefit the self, we become attached to it, and whatever harms the self, we have aversion, right? And based on these, yeah, all the negative karma are created, right? All the karmas. So all the karma, all the actions we do out of attachment or hostility are negative karma. So yesterday when we went to ignorance, I said there was three level of this ignorance, right? So the first one is not believing in Buddha, not believing in rebirth, and not believing in karma. So that's usually the first level of ignorance that one mentioned. So why do you think it mentions that? Because it's not what will lead you out of cyclic existence, right? It's not an ignorance. If you remove it, it will bring you out of cyclic existence. So it's not actually the cause of cyclic existence. So why does it mention that? Somebody has an idea? Why does it mention refuge, karma, and rebirth as the first level of ignorance that one has to remove?
Just live for this life alone. So is that? Oh. If you don't believe in other lives, you'll just live for this life only.
Yes, and what's the problem with that?
Then you'll do things based on that are problematic, like you won't create karma. Your karma will be based on thinking that there's no future lives.
Yes, 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 yes. All what you say is true. It could be a little bit more. Yeah, a little bit. Somebody else has something to add to what she said.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, it seems to me that all three of those things are the first level of understanding, and you have to have that level of understanding and dissatisfaction to continue in the Dharma to the more complicated and difficult aspects to attain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not really. Yes, yes, it's vaguely that, vaguely that.
Well, I'm going to build on what you, of course, I never pronounce your name correctly, Nadezhda. It's all about me. If you stay in those,
Yeah, yeah.
I has to be so strong. If you're materialistic and this is the only life I've got, it's going to be, let me get it while I've got it.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
So building off on what Nadezhda said, if we're living for one life, for this life, then we are only creating the karma for good things in this life. We're not thinking of future lives. So
yes, 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 yes.
Well, and if we think that
But
situation is fine, then why would we take refuge in anything else? So that you wouldn't have refuge in the Buddha either.
If you look at it from a different angle, if you don't have that belief, then maybe you don't have any like concept of causes and conditions.
yes, 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 yes. Cause and consequence, cause and effect. Okay, maybe last two.
I think Beth and Corey said, without these three, we will not be able to study and realize emptiness.
Yes.
Uh, I see these three as synonymous, not separate. And if I don't take refuge in all three of these, then the ignorance comes up very easily because in my consciousness, all the imputing and the projections and the labeling will come so easily.
Yeah.
It's like it's synonymous. It's in one. It's yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so you get
Okay. I think I will add something and then maybe, So I think the main reason, you see, if you don't believe in rebirth, then you don't try to create the cause to create a good rebirth, right? Because you don't believe rebirth exists. So why would you care to create the cause for going to a good place? Because you don't think it exists, right? So the basis is really to believe in rebirth. And then once you have this concept of rebirth, you want to create the cause to go to a good place. So you take care of your karma, right? And that's based on you accepting the Buddha's teaching that there is rebirth and that there is karma, right? So without that belief in karma, you cannot create the cause of a good rebirth, and therefore within cyclic existence, you don't create the cause to go to a good place, right? So after death, if you don't create the cause for perfect human rebirth or God realm or higher rebirth, then we have to create those causes, right? So otherwise they don't happen. And you can only create the cause if you believe that these places actually exist, right? And then you aspire and you create the cause to be born there. So that's why that's the first level of ignorance that one has to remove, right? So it doesn't lead you to higher to out of cyclic existence, but it leads you to a good place within cyclic existence. Huh? Yeah, yes, motivation. But so now I have a question to you. So in that sense, from Buddhist perspective, you would have to have refuge in the Buddha, believe in rebirth, and believe in karma in order to create the cause for a good rebirth, right? So that's the Buddhist understanding. So what about all the non-Buddhists?
I was going to ask that.
Right? So what about all the non-Buddhists, right? They don't believe necessarily they believe in one rebirth, right? Not more than one. And you have many non-religious, you have many atheists that live a very decent life and have a good heart, right? So what do you think? Where do those one end up? Yes, anyway, in samsara, right? Because they don't have the concept of removing the inherent I. But I think there's something else there. So you have many forms of ethic in the world, right? But if you check about the Buddhist ethic, is actually quite different. So for example, non-killing, Christians also have the one not killing human beings, but it doesn't include animal, insects, and all forms of life, right? So the the, the non-killing is actually limited, right? And then stealing in Buddhism is actually taking what is not given, right? So it goes for is more than just taking something that is valuable and robbing someone, right? It's actually more subtle than that, you know? And then sexual misconduct is any sexual activity that brings harm to someone else, right? So it's not just rape, right? It goes further, right? So, and then covetousness is a non-virtue, right? And ill will is a non-virtue. And then not believing in rebirth is a non-virtue. So you see, from a Buddhist point of view, actually, what we call virtue in the world is not actually how to say, many virtuous people in the world, actually, from Buddhist point of view, many of the actions they still do are actually non-virtuous, right? So I think, yeah. I think being virtuous in Buddhist is a little bit more advanced or more subtle, more defined. Yeah. And then also you see when you have the teaching on karma, then not only do you know what is virtuous and what is non-virtue, but you know how to purify your non-virtue and how to make your virtue more powerful. Right? So all these teachings are there in that section of taking care of your karma, right? So I think there are some yogis, you see, at the end of their life, uh, uh, one Kadampa yogi said, now that I'm old, I'm only reading the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish. It says that in the Liberation, it has that quote. So because in the Sutra of the Wise of the Foolish, it explains karma, right? The consequence of karma. So that yogi said, look, there's nothing more important for me than to take care of my karma, right? So if we want to be happy, from Buddhist point of view, you take care of your karma because that's moment by moment, you create the cause of your happiness, right? And you avoid the cause of problems. So the most important teaching in Buddhism at the start is to take care of one's karma. You see, if you want to have the realization of the first scope, of the three scope, so the realization of the first scope is moment by moment, be aware what karma you create, right? So that's how to live a virtuous life, within cyclic existence is to take care of one's karma, right? So I think, for example, Lama Zopa Rinpoche often says, being mindful of one's breath. Well, he says, even a thief is very mindful of each movement he does, someone can be very mindful in creating non-virtuous karma, right? So he said, just being mindful is not, it's good, but it depends what you're mindful about. So basically, the first stage is to be mindful of one's action, karma, right? What we think, what we say, what we do, and whether it's virtuous and non-virtuous. And as we are ordinary being, we cannot be virtuous all the time. It's not possible, right? We sleep many times a day, right? But at least being aware, right? So that's the first step. Or, not how to say, sometimes we say, we give excuse to oneself. We say, "Oh, actually, it wasn't bad." We give ourselves excuses. You know. Uh, I won't say when somebody's angry, but it has a sweet way of saying somebody's angry. No, 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 not that. I'm scorned. Um, what one says when somebody's angry, but in a sweet way, it's not really bad, It's passive aggressive. No, yeah, no, 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 no. Like I'm annoyed. I know, yeah, I'm annoyed. Well, yeah, I like that one. I'm not angry, I'm annoyed. You know, you know, what other word we have like that? Huh? Irritated. Yeah, I'm slightly irritated. I'm slightly annoyed. I'm slightly annoyed. What other words do we have? That bothers me. Yeah, that bothers me. Yeah. I mean, the first, yeah. So, these are the little way we actually, we justify our, we upset, but no, I'm not really upset and I'm annoyed, like that. So I think in the language, you see different level of intensity of, irritation that we have, or anger, or upsetness. So normally, no, in the evening, actually in many practices, you recite 21 Avajjasattva mantra in the evening. So the idea is that actually every evening you purify whatever negative, whatever non-virtues you might have created that day, right? So reciting 21 mantra Avajjasattva says it prevents it from multiplying, right? But then if you add regret, sincere regret, and determination not to do again, then actually you can purify these negative karmas. Because the thing is, you see, if you don't purify, actually they multiply, you know, so a slight little negative action becomes a huge problem, you know, a huge negativity. So it's important to be aware of one's karma. And especially, I think one easy way is when you do something negative, straight to regret it, you know, so it doesn't become a complete karma. You know, you say something, you know, upsetting to someone, oh, I'm sorry, you know. And if you don't say it verbally, at least you say it mentally in your head. And I'm sorry that I did that, that I said that, that wasn't skillful, and so on. Like. And then when one does something positive, I think it's good to rejoice, to be happy, you know. You know, you give something to a beggar, you know, so you feel happy, you know. You see, that was a good deed, you know. Or you offer a smile or a kind word to somebody, feel happy about it, you know. So I think many people suffer from low self-esteem, and if they would do that, rejoice in all the good things they do throughout the day. You see, it's almost like that. You see, you have a glass that is half full and half empty, right? So the people with low self-esteem, they look at the half empty. Oh no, half, half full. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they look at the half empty. Yeah, they look at the half empty, right? So and other people, you know, is exactly the same situation. They're not better than other, but they look at the half full, you know, and they feel happy about themselves, right? So I think it's just a question of perspective, right? So I think to have this feeling of self-esteem or that I'm a worthwhile human being. So to focus on the goodness you do throughout the day, right? And to rejoice, feel happy about it. I think it's a um, very good exercise, very good practice. So once one has that basis of taking care of one's karma, I mean, you know, we can relax, basically. You know, it's definite that we're going to get a good rebirth. You know, we don't need to worry at all. We take care of one's karma, it's fine. So I think it brings a lot, taking care of one's karma actually brings great peace in the heart. You know, if you take care of your karma, you don't worry so much, you know. Also, you see, many people actually worry about the situation of the world, the situation of the politics, you know, uh, there's quite situation of war. But I think if you take care of your karma, nothing can happen to you, right? I mean, we create the cause of what's happening all the time within one's mind, right? So if you take care of your karma, it's okay, you know? Because your state of mind, whether it's happy or not, depends on whether you create virtue or non-virtue, right? So if you take care of your mind, your reality is the effect of your mind, right? So they take the example, you know, if somebody, if a plane crashes and you have 2, 3 person that survive, right? So 100 person die and 3 survive with almost no consequence. Well, the difference is the karma of the beings that were in the plane, right? So these three persons didn't create the cause to die in that situation. So they weren't affected much, you know. So from Buddhist point of view, whatever we experience, you know, depends on one's karma. So even if the whole country collapses, if you don't have the karma to experience that, you won't, you know. I think karma is very powerful if you really go into it and have faith in it, and you keep on creating the cause for happiness and avoid causes of suffering, then that's all you can do, right? So the next stage, the next level of ignorance is to believe in a self-sufficient, substantially existent I or dominant I. So this is the I that is, so this I is innate. So all sentient beings have it, right? Even the ants, even the dog, the cat, you know, everyone has this innate sense of I. So for all the school except the Prasangika, that's the self that is to be removed. That sense of self is why we're in cyclic existence. Right? All the school except the Prasangika would say if you remove that sense of self, you have reached nirvana. Right? So it's actually a great achievement, you see, if one would experience this absence of the dominant I. I personally have difficulty using this self-sufficient, substantially existent. It's kind of mouthful, you know, to say. And dominant I like it, but I think Lama Yeshe used to use the term ego, you know. I think because of his interaction with Westerner, I think, you know, we Westerner use the term ego. I think, I don't know exactly the Western philosophical definition of the word ego. Does somebody know? Maybe you know. What do we mean by ego in the West, actually? Huh?
Self-centered.
Being self-centered, yeah. Yeah, something more.
Psychology, we talk about the id, you know, the in Western psychology, which is where the word ego is very much talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about the id, you know,
Id.
the id ID,
Id
which is
ID.
sort of like, I think, your inner child, or is it your inner child or your self-existent? Sorry?
The impulsive nature would be the id. And then there would be the superego, which is kind of like the critical self. And then there's the ego in the middle between those two that meets the public.
Mm-hmm. But in general languages, somebody has a big ego. We would say somebody has a big personality or a big self-esteem, or, you know, yeah, pride, being pride, you know. Yeah. So in everyday language, that's how we would use it. But then philosophically or clinically, where did that word ego come from? Who created that word? Freud. It came from Freud. Okay.
Right here.
Uh,
There's three. There's the colloquial one, the one from psychoanalysis and the philosophy one.
Okay, read it.
So the colloquial one is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
Mm-hmm.
And then the psychoanalysis one is the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and sense of personal identity. And then it's compared with the id and the superego, which Linda was talking about. And then the philosophy one in metaphysics is a conscious thinking object.
What you're talking about is the colloquial one, right? Just the general definition.
Yeah.
How people casually use it.
Yes, so I think I will go back to the dominant eye. Because none of these definitions actually fit the Buddhist definition of the dominant eye, right? So you see, one meditation that is that makes you aware of what the dominant eye is if you sit and you meditate on the five aggregate. You see, you focus on your body and you see how it changes from moment to moment, right? So the body, liquid circulate, oxygen circulate, things happen into the organs, right? And the body becomes older moment by moment. Cells are born, cells die, right? So our body is a living organism that changes, right? And then there's the mind, right? And the mind, if you observe the mind, so the mind is that which is clear and knowing, right? So it's a space that is aware, that cognizes. And within that space that cognizes, you have all our wonderful thoughts and emotions and mental image and memory, all these characteristics happening within the mind. And that mind also is a stream of moment that changes, that passes, and you have a new thought, a new emotion, and etc. So there's a stream of thought, emotion, and so forth. And then we have five senses, right? So that was the mental consciousness, focusing on thought and so forth. Then you have the five sense consciousnesses. So moment by moment, these five sense consciousness enter into contact with objects. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. And this contact produces sensation. So certain contact are pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. So certain sound are pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Certain sight are pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Smell, taste, certain are pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, etc. So our six senses, even the thought, the emotion, certain are pleasant, other are unpleasant, other are neutral. So our six senses enter into contact with object and produce sensations. And these sensations change from moment to moment. And then you have discernment or discrimination. So the mind, discrimination, so this sound, is the fan. This sound is a paper moving. This sound is somebody, touching the table. So you're able to recognize what the sound is, or what you see, or what you smell, or what you taste, or what you touch, or what you think. So that's discernment, discrimination. And then based on these sensation and discernment, some kind of volition or some kind of action arise. So these are the 5 aggregates. So if you sit and meditate and focus on the continual movement of these 5 aggregates, you know, how the body constantly change, how your thought constantly change, how your sensation constantly change, how your discernment change, how you react to those. So that would be the focusing on what exists, right? What is there when you sit. But then from time to time, you have the dominant I that arise, right? So the dominant I is a sense of I that arises that he's part of this body and mind continuum, but he's more important. And so important that he even say, oh, this is my body, this is my thought, I'm thinking that. So this I that you see, one has to watch this I that arise within the flow of your body mind. You check, you observe how this I appear. So he appears to be part of your mind, somewhere in your mind, but he's not just a thought, he's more than a thought. And he appears to be the possessor of the thought. He appears to be the possessor of the body. So it's not just the body that does, it's me that does. So it's not just the body that is sitting, I am sitting. So one tries to see where this I, this dominant I is. And if you look for it, you know, while he's there and you don't find it, you experience this absence of this dominant I. But then when you check, then how do I exist? Well, I'm this continuity of the body and mind. That's who I am. And when I die, I'm the continuity of the 4 mental aggregate. What's left is the mind, discernment, sensation, and volition. So the continuity of that, that's who I am. But when I'm upset, is the mind upset? Is the body upset? Or is it me that I'm upset? If I have desire, is it the body that has desire? Is it the mind that has desire? Or is it me? So when I have fear, is it the body that has fear? Is it the mind that has fear? Or is it me? So by observing, you see how the I appear in this different situation. And then looking for it and not finding, then these emotions subside. So try for a few minutes, you bring about an emotion and say, is it the body that has this emotion? Is it the mind or is it me? And then if you say it is me, where is this me that has fear, that has this obsession, that has this desire or this aversion? Where is this me? So are you able to discern this dominant I? Are you able to taste it? Recognize it? Are you? Yeah. Good, good. I think it's actually, this is really, because it's quite easy to discern this dominant I. So it's actually quite easy to meditate on emptiness of that. And if you check, you see when you're upset, you check who is upset. And you don't find the I that is upset. And then the more you focus on this absence of the I that's upset, then the upsetness is not fed. You know, being upset, you feed it with thoughts, right? You reason to be upset, right? But if you stop feeding it, then it gradually, the energy disappears. So same thing, uh, you crave for something, and I say, who's craving for that thing, right? And then if you don't feed that craving by eliminating the I that has that craving, then the craving subsides, right? That's actually in theory. In practice is much more difficult because actually once the emotion is there, it's even though you remove the cause of the affliction, the energy is already there in movement, right? So it takes quite a long time to, to disappear. But if you are developing that mindfulness all the time, you are on the lookout for the I, and you don't let it arise, then it doesn't create any attachment or aversion. You see, you have to have this mindfulness to look out for the I, and you don't let it invade your mind. If you don't let it invade, then the affliction cannot really arise. Right? So it's easier to do it at the beginning than once the emotion have already flared up. It's almost like the fuel has to consume itself till it ends, right? So it's actually challenging, you know, uh, when you have fear or when you have upsetness about a situation or you're angry about something, and then even though you don't find the I that is angry, anger is still there, right? It's kind of, you know. So same thing, like we had croissant, before. So you think about croissant and you say, oh, attachment to the croissant, desire to the croissant arise. So once it's there, then you look, where is the I that wants the croissant? And you don't find the I that wants the croissant, but the desire for the croissant is still there, right? But in the Prasangika, actually, you don't have so much that problem because with the Prasangika, there's no croissant there. You see, you also see there's no croissant there. So you have some more tools there. Yeah. But you see, so now we have two stage, right? So one practice is to take care of one's karma moment by moment, and the other one is to be on the lookout of the I, you know. So the less you let the I invade your mind, the more peace you have, more joy. So the more you have this mindfulness of the I, you don't let it arise, you don't let it invade your mind, then that much more peace you have. And that's the main meditation for all the yogis except for Prasangika, is to be on the lookout of this I and not let it arise. So first one does that in meditation, so you do your meditation and each time this I arises, you look, where is it? And not finding it, you let it go, right? And then gradually he arises less and less often till he doesn't arise anymore, right? Yeah.
So about emotions, there was a piece of research that was done, a scientific, a few years ago by this woman who had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
I think the book is called The Stroke of Insight. And she said that emotions only last for 90 seconds. So what happens, the reason we're upset and all that, it's because of the thoughts that come after the emotions. So
that feeds it.
yes.
That feed the emotion, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's useful
Yeah.
to just wait for 90 seconds.
Actually, when you're upset, 90 seconds is a long time. Or you're afraid of something, 90 seconds is really long. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Can you unmute?
It'll pick up.
It's easier if they write the questions. Yeah. Just speak loud.
I remember one time talking about the eye and maybe you're meditating and there's something that says, oh, a cup of tea. And you look into it and let it diffuse out and all that. And maybe you do that twice or more, and then in a few minutes you find yourself in there at the hot pot getting the tea. So it's like, even though you see into it and bring space to it and let it diffuse out, somehow a lot of times you still find yourself within 5 or 10 minutes in there getting the tea. And so what is there's
Yeah, I think there's an argument there. You see, your understanding of emptiness has different degrees. Let's say you have a friend, and that friend has harmed you or speak badly about you behind your back. But that friend comes to you very friendly and smile and say nice thing. But you know that, actually that person doesn't like you and criticize you behind your back, right? But he appears very friendly. And, he's there friendly and like, to please you and things. But you don't trust him, right? Because actually his nature, is a little bit crooked somewhere, so you don't really trust him, even though the outer appearance is very friendly and things like that, but somehow you don't trust, right? So there's two things going on. There's the outer appearance of very friendly, but you don't trust him because he has harmed you in the past or, whatever, right? So same thing with the eye. You see, so the eye appears to be there, and your mind knows that it's not there because you have seen it's empty, you haven't found it. So you have two things. You have the appearance of the eye and your knowledge that is not there, right? But your knowledge that is not there is much weaker than the appearance of the eye, right? So gradually your knowledge that he's not there becomes stronger and stronger till the point you don't believe it at all, right? But us, you see, that understanding is still weak, right? Because we have beginningless habit of believing in the I. So the understanding that it's empty is weak compared to the habituation of a whole life or many lives of believing in it, right? So that process of removing it takes a long time, right? So yes, so then you end up with that situation. Yes, well, I know it's empty, but let's still go get it, right? Because because you see, it's weak. That understanding of it being empty is weaker than the desire to actually stand up and go, right? Okay, I think we leave the Prasangika for this afternoon. And we're going, because otherwise we cannot enjoy lunch, So we might. So let's keep an inherent existent lunch. Okay. So whatever positive energy we have generated this morning, by trying to induce the mind of refuge, the mind of bodhicitta, and reflecting on karma, and reflecting on the emptiness of the inner eye. So much virtue and insight we have generated. So let's dedicate all this so that we get again an opportunity in this life and in future life to continue our spiritual development, and may we soon realize emptiness of inherent existence and thereby become free from cyclic existence. And may our heart of love and compassion and bodhicitta flourish and lead us to complete enlightenment as soon as possible. Bon appétit.